West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
A very good evening to you all who are catching us here on West Nile TV from wherever you are. I hope you're having a very beautiful evening. Welcome to this talk show. My name is Lillian Ayot. I'm your host, and today in the studio we have guests coming in from Nile Girls Forum who are going to talk to us about their organization and also what they are doing on ground. Now, there has been a rise in the number of organizations specifically dealing with girls and women, wanting to fight violence against girls and women. And just recently, I think a week ago, we had a discussion on 16 Days of Activism that aims at ending violence among young girls and women. And very many people have been asking questions as to why the focus is on young girls and women. But we've answered that question a lot of times. People say young girls and young women are very vulnerable when it comes to, sexual abuse, knowing their rights, their sexual rights and all that. So that is why the focus has been on them, and I would love to assure you that the boy child has not been neglected. And also in this fight, the boy child has been actively taking place in seeing that we fight the violence that young girls and women face. And today in the studio we are joined by 4 beautiful young ladies from Nile Girls Forum. And in the first session we have 2 beautiful ladies. That is Miss Pimer Peace Monica, who is the Executive Director Nile Girls Forum, and Miss Atuhaire Joan, the President Peer Pals Movement Nile Girls Forum. But before we dip down into the discussion, let's get to know our guests in the studio. You're most welcome to West Nile TV. Kindly introduce yourself to our viewers.
Thank you so much for having me tonight.
You're welcome.
And thank you to the viewers for catching this talk show. My name is Pimer Peace Monica, and I am the founder and executive director of Nile Girls Forum. It's an honor to be here. Thank you
so much. It's also an honor to have you here in our studio. Now, on my right, we have a very beautiful young lady. Kindly introduce yourself to our viewer.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Atuhaire Joan, and I am the president of the Peer Pals Movement and the Nile Girls Forum. I'm happy to be here.
Well, that is a very beautiful introduction coming in from both young ladies right there. Now, if you've noticed, there's the confidence, the intelligence bit of it that comes with the way they speak, and I would love to attribute that to also the organization, because that is what they are doing with a lot of young girls out there. I know you're curious, many of us are curious, what is Nile Girls Forum? For the few people who know that they're working in their communities, know exactly what they do, but a lot of us out there do not know what this organization does. So we'll have the executive director talk to us, introduce us to Nile Girls Forum and also what they do, or what they have done and what they're currently doing in our community. You're most welcome.
Thank you so much. And Nile Girls Forum is a young women-led organization that works with adolescent girls and young women, and our emphasis is on leadership and governance, sexual and reproductive health and rights, climate justice, and women economic empowerment. Nile Girls Forum was started in 2018. That's when I had this vision to found Nile Girls Forum. So we are 5 years old now, and next year we shall be turning 6. And over the years we have predominantly worked mainly with adolescent girls and young women, because this is our target group, and we are intentional about that, because when you look at the statistics in Uganda currently, as much as there are conversations around how about the boy child, but when you go down to the communities, sometimes when you're in urban areas like Kampala city, or even let's say Arua city, and then you get to see women driving cars or women in positions of power, but then when you get to actually go down to the grassroots, to these communities that Nile Girls Forum is working in, you get to realize that women get to bear a huge chunk of the burden. And so among the different groups that we work with among the adolescent girls and young women, we work with young women affected by displacement, and that is what people largely call the refugees. And displacement in the sense that we do not want to create that stigma that, you know, by the fact that when you talk about a refugee, most of us think they are privileged, they have access to food, to shelter. I mean, because Uganda being one of the largest hosting refugee countries across the world, so there is that tension that comes in between the refugee community and the host community. So the other group that we work with are young women and adolescent girls with disabilities. But also we continue to work with young women in urban in urban slums. And you get to realize that the nature of, even when you're working with young women or just women in general, we need to be cognizant of the fact that young people or even just young women are diverse. For example, you're going to go to a community to create an intervention where you're saying your target group is young women or adolescent girls, but you're not being intentional on the fact that they could be diverse. You know, sometimes when you go to these communities, you're working with a young woman with disability, but then later on you actually get to realize that she's also living with HIV, but she's also affected by displacement. So how do you make sure you have that holistic approach? And that is what Nile Girls Forum is doing to make sure that we reach the least exposed girl or the most vulnerable. And that is where we get to see that we have interventions in Arua, we also have in Terego, in Zombo, and in Kampala currently. Yes.
Okay, interesting. So what criteria did you use to choose these particular districts? Because I know in West Nile we have very many districts, and why did you choose to zero down on those districts?
Thank you very much. And so our programs are entirely dependent on statistics and data. And even when we have new programs that we are designing or new projects coming on board, we look at the national statistics, and after looking at those statistics, then when we get to the district level, we actually have inception meetings with the district leadership to also give us that informed point of view. I would give you an example. When we came in with the We Lead project that we are currently implementing in Terego and Arua district, we had our very first inception meetings in both of the districts, and we got to realize that sub-counties like Arivo in Arua district is actually leading in the rates of teenage pregnancy, which is something that we wouldn't have known if we just came into a district and just chose a sub-county by ourselves. But also you get to see Katrini in Terego, it's also leading in teenage pregnancies, which is the same case to when we went to Zombo district, because there then we're doing something around young women with disabilities. There are also those statistics coming out, so that is what informs our programming. But even as we do that, we have lots of consultations, even with the young people in the communities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That is the Executive Director, Nile Girls Forum, for that overview about the organization and also what you do. Now, I would like to turn to our beautiful Miss Atuhere Joan, who is the president of Peer Pals Movement. What is Peer Pals Movement?
Okay, thank you so much. The Peer Pals Movement is basically a movement of adolescent girls and young women that do basically peer-to-peer mentorship. And the Peer Pals Movement was envisioned by our dearest executive director, where she had a vision to see a movement of adolescent girls and young women doing peer-to-peer mentorship in order to solve the problems that are being faced by the young women in the different societies.
Okay, what impact has this movement had in the lives of young girls and young women?
Okay, thank you so much. So first of all, the Peer Pals Movement, we work in line with specific thematic areas. We work in line with climate justice, we work in line with sexual and reproductive health and rights, We work in line with leadership and governance, and then we also do mentorship, peer-to-peer mentorship. So the Peer Pulse movement has had a tremendous impact when it comes to adolescent girls and young women. We have testimonies of girls gaining confidence through the Peer Pulse movement. Leadership skills. I, for one, am a testimony when it comes to leadership skills. I didn't know I would take up such a big role, but my peers voted me and I was able to take up this leadership role. As you can see, I can speak so confidently, and trust me, this is an impact from the Peer Pulse movement. And also, girls are now well informed. You know, there is a saying that if you want to steal Africans, put it into writing. But with the Peer Pulse movement, we are empowered with knowledge. We are able to read and understand things concerning sexual and reproductive health and rights. We're able to understand climate justice, the laws that surround it. So the Peer Pulse movement has really done a great impact when it comes to the lives of adolescent girls and young women. For yesterday, we were having a mentorship session with our fellow peers from Terego, Arua, and Zombo. And when we were interacting, I got to notice how impactful this movement has been on the girls of these districts, how changed their lives are because of the movement. So when it comes to impact, we could spend a whole day speaking. They're really tremendous.
About our climate justice, how do the young girls and young women come in here?
Okay, so when you look at most of the effects that are on young women and adolescent girls, talk about things like teenage pregnancy, talk about things like sexual violence. If you are to dig deep into these issues, you will find that climate change is triggering most of these issues. I'll give you an example. When you come to most of these semi-desert areas in Uganda, where they are facing very, very high temperatures and they lack things like water. So girls have, because of gender roles in our communities, girls have to move miles just to get water to use at their households. And in these movements, we have seen increasing numbers of sexual violence, girls being raped, and this is turning out into high increasing numbers of teenage pregnancy. So most of the climate changes come down to actually affect women and girls, whereby when there is a climate change in a community, it is the woman that is to feel the impact most. If the soils are no longer fertile, who does most of the digging in households? It is women. So if they cannot get food for their family, it is them to be affected. You will see high cases of domestic violence because of the patriarchal system that we have in the communities, that men always have to blame it on the women. So if you look at climate change and you dig deep into this, you will realize that it is affecting directly girls and young women.
Okay, thank you very much. I know a lot of people have been asking questions. How does climate change impact on the lives of girls? How are they affected? She has put it well in her explanation. Thank you very much. Dear viewer, you can also leave your comment on this topic of discussion. Let us know what you think about this topic right on our YouTube channel and also on our Facebook channel where we stream live. Don't forget to be a part of this conversation. And now turning back to our ED Nile Girls Forum, we had a mention of teenage pregnancy, the rising number among of the teenage pregnancy. Let's talk about West Nile in particular. We have very many organizations working to end teenage pregnancy here, but then instead of the numbers going down, we're seeing a rise in the numbers. What are we not doing right? What are most of the organizations not doing right? And how does Nile Girls Forum tend to do it differently so that the numbers go down?
Thank you so much. And I totally agree with you on that, because there are conversations we have had in different workshops that we attend. How come there are very many organizations working on women empowerment and specifically on sexual and reproductive health and rights, but then on the contrary, you get to see the numbers just keep on increasing? And for me, I would say the biggest, or one of the things that really make that happen, it's because as much as there are very many organizations coming up, one is that not all organizations are documented at the districts. So you'll hear that there is this organization operating in, for example, Zombo district. There is another one operating maybe within Kampala, but they are not even known. They are not in the database at the district. So what happens is you're having very amazing interventions on teenage pregnancy, but then when the district is sending their data to the national level, where they are going to influence budget allocations and all that, your impact stories, for example, let me say as Nile Girls Forum, if we were not engaging these community leaders, then the statistics will not be captured, definitely. So you get to realize that there are very many interventions. How come then that these cases are actually rising? It's because those cases that are being addressed, they are not being documented. So you get to see maybe the same statistics, or even worse, maybe some other people used to document, but then now they're not getting to document. But then also the other thing with the rise, I would say there is that issue of the mindset in the community. In the community, people are already saying women are overly empowered. So there is also that neglect they give to the women, because they'll say, after all, when an opportunity comes, they're going to talk about the woman first. And yet that is not the case. So you even get to see it gets worse when it comes to persons with disabilities. Most people would actually think they are doing a person with a disability a favor by getting them pregnant, because they would say, if I don't get you pregnant, who else is going to appreciate you with your disability? So it goes back to having that holistic approach, from educating the communities, but also making sure that as organizations, projects come and projects go. What sort of sustainability mechanism do you have in place, for example? So you'd find most organizations, after a project has phased out, the girls they have been reaching out to equally are left out. So that is something that Nile Girls is doing differently, and that's what this Peer Pulse movement, because it's an ingrown program at Nile Girls Forum. It is not a project that has just come and it's going, so it's our sustainability mechanism. So what happens after the project in Arua and Terego is done, the movement is there to take on these ladies. But also, just to highlight, when it comes to teenage pregnancy, I think in most cases we address teenage pregnancy in isolation, if you're saying sexual reproductive health, and that's where you're seeing us having the intersection of the different thematic areas, because you'd be amazed on how sexual reproductive health and rights intersects with the climate justice. Just recently, Nile Girls Forum participated in the Conference of Parties in Dubai on climate change, and climate change is now having integrations of climate change and sexual and reproductive health and rights, climate education. So you get to see that when we come to these communities, we are not only addressing a need from the outside, but we are going down to the roots to see what actually the root cause is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for beautifully answering that question that most people here have been asking, and I bet we all have gotten the answer. Thank you very much. Turning to our president, Peer Pulse movement, I know you've been going to the communities, talking to these girls, but one problem still remains here in West Nile. Most girls do not know their sexual reproductive health, and also there's that problem in the community where people feel it's not yet okay to talk about sex openly to these girls. And also we could attribute some of these rising cases of teenage pregnancy to the fact that some of these girls don't know their sexual rights, and that's a thing that we are still fighting in the community. So how do you deal with such challenges when you go out in the community?
Thank you. So I believe that that is also one of the challenges that we are still facing in our way of achieving at least sexual and reproductive health and rights. So usually when we get the knowledge, because Nile Girls Forum has enabled us to have capacity buildings when it comes to sexual and reproductive health and rights, and when it comes to the Peer Pulse movement, like I said before, we do peer-to-peer mentorship in a way that when we get the knowledge from the capacity building and we are able to understand exactly our sexual and reproductive health, and also our sexual rights. When we get to our fellow peers in the community, we are able to give appropriate sexual and reproductive health information. Like I said, appropriate. Because usually, like you said before, when it comes to communities, most communities are really very, very negative when it comes to information around sexual and reproductive health. Maybe some actually can think you're bringing some kind of socially unacceptable information to their children, but which is not the case. Under Nile Girls Forum, we are taught appropriate sexual and reproductive health in a way that the kind of information that I'll give to my peer, my fellow peer, who is a young woman, is not what the society envisions that we are knowing under sexual and reproductive health. So just like also the Peer Pals movement in Terego, when I was interacting with them yesterday during our mentorship session, they were able to tell me how they take back information to their fellow peers in their communities, and it is really appropriate. And then also when it comes to the community, I think more has to be done when it comes to mindset change. I know it takes a while, but we're here to walk the journey. Mindset change is very, very important because everything begins with the mind. When people have a wrong mindset about something, it is hard for them to appreciate it, you know. So when it comes to mindset change, I think we are to do more when it comes to engaging with the community leaders, parents, and those that work closely with young people, because this information is really needed. If we are to see a decrease in teenage pregnancy, if we are to see more youths being able to take up their rights, their sexual rights, we will see very many cases coming to an end. Cases like sexual violence, gender-based violence, we shall see it all coming to an end. So that is how we do it under the Peer Pals movement.
Okay, that is quite interesting, coming in from the President Peer Pals movement and Nile Girls Forum. Don't forget, you can still let us know what you think about this topic today, and also put in your comments on our YouTube and our Facebook channels. Thank you very much. Turning to the Executive Director, Nile Girls Forum. One of your thematic area, you talked about economic empowerment of girls and young women. We know that there's most women who are not economically empowered have fallen victims to gender-based violence and all sorts of violence. So how has Nile Girls Forum empowered these girls economically?
Thank you so much. And when it comes to economic development and livelihood, this is a conversation that we can have, I think, for the longest time. And for us, even when we were choosing to have that thematic area, we are cognizant that even as we are talking about access to sexual and reproductive health and services, of course, I would give an example. For example, maternal care. If you're telling a woman at the grassroots to go to a health facility to access antenatal services, fine, maybe there are health facilities around, but when it comes to affordability, you find that these women are challenged. And in most cases, if you're in a household and the woman is not working, she's a stay-home mom, you know, every other end of the month, if you're to ask your husband or your brother for money, sometimes it's kind of degrading, because it is something that you wouldn't want to keep on asking, and like those are the things that would make you prone to issues of gender-based violence, because then you are looked at as a burden. So in terms of making sure that this woman, if you're equipping them with the information, if you're equipping a peer pal with information, but then there's an opportunity for them, for example, to come to West Nile TV, and she cannot even afford transportation, I don't think you're doing justice enough. So that is where Nile Girls Forum came up with a sister program to the Peer Pals movement, and this is called the Rejesha program. So under Rejesha, it is entirely economic development. And what we do, we currently make carpets, doormats, we also make beaded bags, we also do liquid soap, and we do quite a number of things. But even as we make those particular products, we make sure that we are taking these women through business development trainings and financial literacy. And so these products, because when we came to the community, sometimes you'd come, for example, to Terego district, and you're asking this woman, what skill would you love to learn? Most of the times we hear, I would want to learn salon skills, or I would love to have tailoring. But I think it's because this is something that I think in almost all the communities in Uganda, when an NGO is doing economic empowerment, those are the things that really come out. And yet, when you go to the grassroots in these communities, you get to realize some of these things they are doing are even not marketable. Because, I mean, if you learn how to tailor, in my village, for example, maybe the money you would make is doing repairs of 500 shillings. If you make a dress, it will be like maybe 10,000 shillings. So for us, it was about also seeing what is marketable and how can these women actually get to benefit. So the next thing we looked at was how do they get to access markets and finances. So we also had a partnership that is currently running with the Fairway Hotel. So the products that these girls are making from the different districts are then taken to Fairway Hotel and they are purchased. So for us, talking about economic development is just not about coming to these communities, but making sure that these young women and these girls that are being equipped with these skills have the access to finances and markets. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. As we conclude this session, I'll give you each a minute to say your words, your final words to all of you, and then we can kick in with the second session. I'll start with our president, Peer Pals Movement. Your last message to our viewer.
Thank you so much. So, the Peer Pals movement, because I'm speaking on behalf of the movement of the young adolescent girls and young women, we are basically here for a cause, and the movement is walking a journey for any girl out there or any young woman out there. You should know that you have a right to all kinds of knowledge around things concerning your sexual and reproductive health, and do not be afraid to speak up when something is off, because as women, usually in most of our communities, we are told to always keep silent about issues concerning us, but speak up, be confident, and you'll be well.
Thank you so very much. That is Miss Atuhaire Joan, the President, Peer Pals Nile Girls Forum. Thank you very much for that message. Turning to the Executive Director, your last message, and also tell us where we can find your offices.
Thank you so much. And to the viewers and every other person that is working on women empowerment or just doing community work that looks at improving lives. One is collaborate. You cannot work in silos, because then if we collaborate, then we shall have that meaningful engagement from the grassroots. Because if you're still not being able to collaborate, then we are going to keep on having discussions. How come the teenage pregnancy rates are increasing instead of decreasing? So let us collaborate. And to the women out there and the girls, let each one of us embrace our story. Our stories do not define us. And if you're out there and you would love to be a part of the Nile Girls Forum, you can find our details on all social media platforms. We are on Facebook, that is Nile Girls Forum. We're also on X, that's formerly the Twitter. So there it is at Nile Girls Forum. We're also on LinkedIn and Instagram. And our offices are in Kampala, in Kamocha on Old Kira Road. Feel free to check our website at www.nilegirlsforum.org. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Executive Director, Nile Girls Forum, and also our President, Peer Pals Movement. Thank you all for joining us on today's program. We are going for a brief break. Don't go away. We are still continuing with this discussion with the Nile Girls program after this short break. My name is Lillian Ayod. See you shortly.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Serve your family the bigger feast this Christmas with StarTimes Upgrade to Kongere promotion. Nova customers on satellite decoder simply pay 20,000 shillings special bouquet monthly subscription to enjoy smart bouquet for free. Enjoy variety of entertainment including Hello Mr. Right on Makula Chika, Kazanya Kukazanyo on Makula, animations and cartoons on Boeing, series on TLC and Star Life. So make this the unforgettable holiday. More content, happier family.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region. West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Well, welcome back from that break. Thank you for joining us again here on West Nile TV, lighting up the region. My name is Lillian Ayot, and in today's discussion we have the Nile Girls Forum with us in the studio. But before that, you can let us know what you think about the previous conversation that we held about Nile Girls program and what they are doing, plus the related questions that came with it on our YouTube channel and also on on our Facebook channel. Let us know what you think. Thank you for joining us once again. And in the studio, we have Miss Faith Birungi, the program officer with lead project Nile Girls Forum, and a peer pal from Terego district, that is Miss Ochokoro Lillian. Oh, that's so sweet. It's a pleasure having another Lillian again here in the studio. Thank you. If you have been following the conversation, we've been talking about the Nile Girls program, what they do, and also the kind of activities that they are currently doing. And among them is a project that they are currently, doing in line with ending violence against girls and young women in our community. And this project is here in West Nile, I think in 2 districts.
Thank you so much, Lillian. We're happy to be here. My name is Faith Birungi. I'm the WeLead project officer. The WeLead project is a 5-year planned project that we are implementing in West Nile, specifically in 2 districts, Arua and Terego. It's a project that strictly targets young women and girls affected by displacement who are commonly known as refugees. Through this project, we've done quite a number of activities, which leads us to the one that we're doing right now, a talk show on ending violence against women. This is an activity to commemorate the 16 Days of Activism, where we're trying to get the communities to lead in preventing and stopping the violence against women, since it has been on a rise and has been affecting them in various aspects of their lives in the community.
Okay, thank you very much for giving us that overview. We'll come back to you, but for now, let's get to know our other guest here in the studio, Miss Lillian. Yes, you are most welcome. She's one of the peers from Terego district. Kindly introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you, my colleague. I'm called Ochokoro Lillian from Terego district in Ive sub-county. And I'm also a peer pal.
Thank you very much, Ochokoro Lillian. Before we go back to Miss Faith Birungi, you are a peer pal in your district. How has the peer pal movement impacted your life or changed your life as an individual? Before we go to the district as a whole, how has the peer pal movement changed your life?
It changed my life to know more about HRH. That is it. Health, that is sexual reproductive health and rights. Since I was just staying in my village there, I didn't know nothing like sexual reproductive health and rights. When I joined the group, I at least know, and I know the services which we can do in the case of sexual reproductive health.
Okay, that is very interesting. Now, this is one of the things that Nile Girls Forum has done to change the lives of very many young girls out there. They're able to articulate issues, they're able to talk about what's affecting them, they know their sexual and health, reproductive health rights and all that. So thank you very much, Nile Girls Forum, for that. Still talking to you, how has this peer pal movement changed the lives of other girls in your community?
Like since they were just still out there, nowadays if you compare it to the other previous days, like right now we have been calling for a meeting, let me say a session with our colleagues from Arua, Zombo and Kampala. Now for them, we were all discussing many things, like how we as a girl and adolescent girls, how to protect ourselves and how to see what we can do in case of any difficult things.
Okay, thank you very much. So the girls are able to, you know, they are empowered, they're able to take decisions from an informed point of view and all that. Thank you so much, girls. Nile's Forum, West Nile, turning to Miss Birungi of Faith. You talked about what you are currently doing under the We Lead program, and that includes ending gender-based violence. So why did you choose to focus on young girls and young women in this under this project?
It came with the design of the project directly from. Let me actually start by saying that Nile Girls Forum implements this project with the support of HIVOS, who is our donor through the SRHR Alliance. So the scope of the project already, just like Nile Girls itself, was young women and girls. Okay. So already the project came designed for young women and girls, but when it comes to sexual and gender-based violence, you find that young women and girls are the most victims of this vice. So that's why as Nile Girls Forum we found it a need to partner with people who can help us fight this vice and also get down to the grassroots, to the communities, because when you look at our projects we really target the grassroots, because we know that change starts from home and family is the most important unit when it comes to our community. So we go to the grassroots, sensitize them, have community dialogues with the leaders and also the families, the parents of the girls, the rights holders themselves, so that change comes from within, going up in the hierarchy until we reach national level advocacy. So the reason why we targeted young women and girls, to answer your question, is that they are the most vulnerable to this vice that is domestic violence, gender-based violence.
Okay, thank you very much. To the next question, we know we've talked about girls and young women being affected by gender-based violence, and I know this is not the first time an organization is coming to tackle the gender-based violence bit of it. We also have this a global campaign that has been going on, the 16 Days of Activism against violence and gender-based violence against young girls and young women. So what are the causes of some of this violence against these girls and women?
Some of the causes have been poverty, because most of the girls end up dropping out of school due to forced marriage and rape. So you find that since a girl cannot afford to take care of her baby, cannot afford to take care of her home, ends up in this kind of toxic relationship with this person just because they have money or they can afford to give them what they need to support their child. So poverty has played a very huge role in increasing the numbers that are leading to gender-based violence. Yeah.
Okay, and looking at some of these causes, we've seen poverty and all that. We could also first, we have this one challenge that most organizations face while, you know, implementing this project about ending gender-based violence in the communities. We have this part of the community, especially the tradition, our traditional beliefs, where when a man violates his, let's say, child or stepchild or maybe his wife, they rarely report such cases because they need to protect, you know, the image of the man first of all, and then of the family. They are not allowed to report. So how have you been handling such cases, and how have you engaged the traditional leaders to see that such cases are reported?
There is so much stigma around gender-based violence. That's why you see that most of the cases go unreported. But what we've been doing is that even when the victim decides to keep quiet, we are sensitizing the community in a way that you are your neighbor's keeper. The community is leading. Actually, the theme of this post 16 days of activism activity that we had is let communities lead, because we want your neighbor to be your keeper. If you're really scared of your perpetrator and you can't report them, your neighbor can blow the whistle and go to the maybe the police or whoever is in charge to be able to report the case, and they can be able to help. We've also had community dialogues where we've had all stakeholders at all levels involved. We've had community dialogues where we've had all stakeholders involved, the police, the religious leaders, the cultural leaders, because we know and believe that they play a big role because the communities listen to them. So once the directive is coming from a person of leadership that people entrust with leading their community, for example, a religious leader, a cultural leader, we've had a partnership with the Alul Kingdom, and this has really helped push the message to protect young women and girls out there. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the roles of the different stakeholders. You have mentioned the religious leaders, traditional leaders, the authorities, and also other organizations. What role do these different stakeholders play in ending gender-based violence against young women and girls?
So what we do as the Nile Girls Forum, when we link our rights holders or victims to the cultural leaders or the police, we follow up, and if the police hasn't done its part, we bring in our partners. For example, under the We Lead program, we do not work alone. We have quite a number of around 14 organizations that we work with. So when it comes to gender-based violence, we refer our victims or rights holders that have been affected by this, we refer them to our partners through the leaders, so they work hand in hand to be able to find these perpetrators and arrest them.
Okay, that is very interesting. I also want to turn to Ms. Ochokoro Lillian here. I know the young girls face a lot of violence in the community. Let's talk about the sexual violence among all that. Now, you're specifically based in Tergo. How are young girls affected by this violence? How are they coping up with life, and how are you helping them?
Okay, I'll first start from how they are facing challenges. Now, one of the challenges which they are facing, it could be according to the culture. Like in other clans, those other parents, they were just asking their children to go and marry before they are not matured. Now, if you just giving advice to your, let me say, to your adolescent girl that you are going to get matured, you should go and marry in this age of yours, how will it be?
Okay, so how are you helping to advise these girls so that they know they shouldn't get married at such tender age, maybe informing them that they have a right to say no to marriage at this age and wait until they are ready? How are you helping these girls cope with these challenges under the peer pal movement?
Okay, we as the girls at home there, we normally face many challenges. The first advice which I'm going to give to you all is we should abstain from sex. Like when you are still under the age of, let me say, 10 to 18 there, you just volunteer yourself to go and have the sex, and the partner is, let me say, older than you and in the age of 28 there. How will it be? So it's better for you to abstain, and if you think you can, but I'm not going to give you opportunity to go and have a sex, you must have to know the person's starter before you do anything. You should go for medical checkup in case of STI infections.
Very, very, very interesting right there. I'd love to repeat her words. Before you indulge in any sexual activity, make sure you know the person's status, and also you should know your status. There should always be consent. Thank you very much, Ms. Ochokoro, and for that piece of advice to your fellow young girls out there. Now, turning back to Ms. Faith Birungi, talking about the causes of gender-based violence in our community. That still remains a global issue, by the way. These young girls and women have been affected in various ways as a result of that. Some have been helped, but some have never been helped in any way. So let's understand some of these, the effects of gender-based violence on these young girls and women.
Unfortunately, some of the effects of gender-based violence have been fatal. We've had extreme cases where some of the victims have actually died. And then you find that some, because it affects their self-confidence, someone feels like they don't love themselves anymore because of what this other person is doing to them. It really affects them and demoralizes them to do the easy day-to-day things that they can do. And you find that people are going into depression. People cannot trust because they had put their trust in this person that they thought, is their partner, is someone that they love. And then something to note, that people always think that gender-based violence is just something physical, but it could also be emotional as well. People are being emotionally abused every day because maybe of their disability, because of their HIV status, because of their displacement status and all that. So it's really important that when we are talking about ending violence against women, it is broad and not just limited to physical violence. So that's why it is really a job of each and every one of us to engage and let this vice decrease.
Okay, it's a collective effort that we all have to come together and fight violence against young women and girls in our community. And now let's understand the impact of the We Lead project. You said you're implementing it in Aurora District and Terego. What has been the impact of this project in these districts?
So we've had quite a number of activities ever since inception of the program. For example, we had an inception meeting at both districts of Arua and Terego with the district leaders to introduce the program, let them know what it is about. And through these inception meetings, just like PISA executive director mentioned, that is how we got the scope or the sub-counties in which we implement after getting the statistics from the district. Thereafter, we went and had a courtesy visit at the grassroots because, like I had explained, Nile Girls Forum and the program itself focuses on grassroots advocacy. So we had a courtesy visit to the sub-county leaders, and thereafter we identified the peer pals, just like Lillian herself there. We identified the peer pals through the leaders themselves. They helped in the selection. These were not just random girls that were picked from here and there. Thereafter, we had them profiled to see if they fit the program and if they will be able to be part of the We Lead program, because this is a 5-year-long plan. We didn't want to get maybe girls that would drop out of the program at any time. After we've had quite a number of trainings with these ladies, trainings in advocacy, trainings in inclusion, and trainings in quite a number of things where they've had their confidence built. They've been able to represent at different levels, national and also now, let me say, East Africa-wise. So we've also had community dialogues, like I had said earlier on, with different stakeholders, the cultural leaders, we've had religious leaders, we've had the police represented, we've had the local leaders themselves and the rights holders themselves. They're represented, talking about what SRHR issues are they fighting and what solutions should the community come up with. So these discussions help us find solutions to the problems that the girls are facing together.
Okay, thank you very much. Like I said earlier on, you can be a part of this discussion by going on our YouTube channel, like, subscribe. subscribe and leave your comment. You can do the same on our Facebook channel, where you can engage. We can engage in this discussion. I would love to go to read our comments coming in from our YouTube channel. We have Miss Atuhaire Mugasa Joan, who says, great work, Nile Girls Forum, hashtag Peer Pulse Movement. Thank you so much, Joan, for catching us. We have Aweko Esther, who says, I have thoroughly enjoyed the show. Thank you, Nile Girls Forum. This is great work being done. Thank you so much, Aweko, for appreciating. We have Bonnie, who leaves a comment and also a question. I will have Miss Joan answer that. Sorry, Miss Faith Birunji answer that. Bonnie says, thanks for this campaign. And then he asks, is there a role for men and boys in this campaign? Please elaborate. And again, what do you say about violence against men and women? Let me kindly repeat the question. Is there a role for men and boys in this campaign? Please elaborate. And again, what do you say about violence against men and women?
So violence in itself, Nile Girls Forum in itself has a zero tolerance to violence, be it men or women, zero tolerance. So there is no saying that it is okay to beat a man and then it's not okay to beat a woman. We advocate for human rights in general. So it's zero tolerance to violence. So violence against a man, violence against a woman, it is not a good thing. And then for having male engagement, Nile Girls Forum is very intentional about that. We actually have, unfortunately, we don't really have the time, but we have a program just centered around male engagement. I wish we had the time, and Isaac is in the background there. He could have come in to really dig deep on this. But yes, we do have male engagement, much as it is a women-led organization. We really do have male engagement, and men are always championing us on as we do our activities, because like I said, the theme was let communities lead, and our communities have both men and women. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, my dear listeners out there. Now, I'm just going to just tell you something about my journey from, let me say, in my country, Uganda, to Kenya. It was just a nice journey. Since I was born, I have never heard of let me say, since I was born, I have not even go outside my country. So, when it comes to the organization which was called Nile Girls Forum, I get opportunity to go outside the country. So, our journey was, it was the last month, on October there, we went there. We were, okay, let me say, I was the only person in the West Nile to go there and present Nile Girls Forum there. So the benefits which I got there was, since I was born, I have just heard of Indian Ocean, but I have not reached there. So the organization have given me opportunity to go there and see it, and to also see Mombasa. Before we reach to Mombasa, we first reach in Entebbe, then after Entebbe there we go to Nairobi. Nairobi there we end to Mombasa. That's whereby we used to stay in a hotel. That hotel was called a Reef Hotel Mombasa.
Okay.
So I'm just advising you not to sit down on what challenges you are facing there. There is an organization which can help you to solve your solutions. You can even just come to Nile Girls Forum and join us together. Me, I'm proud of this organization because it has given me courage to talk in front of people. Like when we were there, they were asking us how we normally used to help people living with it. Let me say how we normally used to support people living with HIV/AIDS. Now I was just telling that I should support them in taking their drugs. Like in some villages there, when you are HIV positive, people will just see you as not to be a good person. Sometimes they can say, you see this one, if he's HIV positive, how can she still remain with us here? In fact, if she remains here, she will also spread it and infect many people in our community.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ochokoro Lillian, for that testimony, how the organization has changed her life. It's like a dream come true, as she tells us of her journey to Mombasa and all that. And this is a call to young girls out there that your dreams are valid. The organizations out there, also you yourself, you can take a step to a better life. As we conclude, we'll have Miss Faith Birungi's last message to our viewer.
My last message is, let communities lead. Let us unite in trying to prevent the vice that is domestic violence against young women and adolescent girls in our communities.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just because we want people from Terego to know their girl is here and she is really talking. We want you to put out a message to that girl there in Terego. Zamba Terego Adalenze yo Terego Matisi. Advise many to phase ones Terego and epikini sasi medre to the azie kukan kupi matipika ni kiomi muzwa gwa saropi yo many tonze pini radioni.
Okay. Advise man to fe mini zero amafutere gware arare ikane mi anti no skumi andri yomi do dupirise mi didi mbambabo lete mu agwara iyo ursiko iriyo ra madreko amo pekin sidios ki amafu subcount diete mi elu ursiko imu yo da nirpoti ikane tazo sidio vudale mi yorsiani imu LC1 vo iyo LC1 ni met ale tenga mani mwagwaku te mati kani kumandri eriyo mani madini mbamba le divini mwagwara kozi amatiki OS parents azekiti kakine imanski zodile ikiluido yonze kakine imasezi tadi ande angiribo ikiyo mazambari maigarsu kate mu agpia mwetotero mandrikisu matikitero tsi andi matema farikayo azirgi kiwambio hai mwezapi kate mwagwa mwetotema ndiri mamuma ndiri mwezapi furale mama fari ozi ya maria mewa mbetu ro ndeni imagi eskeviniti ito yo migi yo hai mizapi teri etutu zari dile mwagwa leko iyo risiko mi idrole ruvo kudar siringa agwa lozo irtilerse. So ozo la dire drikadreti I orisiko atamito vini mumavura amakuru okubani ya ate bazini kidi okubani ngwar mi mulu aivoara subcounty era easy village parakoro ngwami sursiria ma aripie ezongi mi tolu mu amavudara ande kankumi inze yo da ba mai kol ki mati maru adomati zenesio
our form boyo mena obara se kan se ani dira izo anje terego arua wesna la iriki message ra ernyor se yo azika yemi bani mi tio de lerki reportira studios kiti bazi mini tozo iyo de kiolo zoni kiti what she is basically said here is that her fellow girls from Terego specifically should not just sit on issues facing them. For example, if your parent is forcing you to go get married when you're not ready, you can report this to, the CDOs, the authorities at the district, and also she is personally available to help such girls, and they can also go to Nile Girls Forum. Otherwise, thank you so much, Nile Girls Forum, for your time here, for the information that you have shared with the people outside there. I know it's going to be of great help to everyone out there, and also to you viewer for staying with us from the start up to this time. I hope you've taken whatever information they have put out, and in case you as a girl or a young woman you are facing violence in your community, you can look for Nile Girls Forum on their different social media handles, as the executive director had already said earlier on. Otherwise, from me to you, thank you very much. From West Nile TV to you, thank you very much for watching us on Star Times Zuku and also on our YouTube and Facebook channels. Hoping you have a very lovely evening as we prepare for Christmas. I know it's a festive season, everyone is excited, but enjoy with caution because we still need you after Christmas. Merry Christmas. Have a good night.
West Nile TV, lighting up